this. Didn't see it coming. Joining us now to perhaps give us a bit more clarity is the Liberal Deputy Leader, Ted O'Brien. Good morning, Ted.
Good morning, Bill.
Nice to speak with you. Never a dull moment in federal politics, certainly the case over the last month. This is Peter Fegan talking to Nationals leader David Littleproud this morning. He was asked whether this was a surprise, and here's what he had to say.
No, let me go through the process that took place. Susan rang me on the Wednesday last week to initiate talks. I knew that she'd rushed home to Albury to be with her mum. She wanted to fly to Canberra on the Friday to have those discussions. It was her decision to want to expedite them. I made it clear to her I wouldn't allow her to fly to Canberra, so I made it clear to her I would drive. I drove that afternoon from Canberra to Albury so that we could have an hour meeting on Thursday so she didn't have to leave her mum's side. Susan wanted that. She wanted to start the conversation on it. I made it clear we were in no hurry.
So how does it go down? Wasn't it a blindside, or were you blindsided? How do you respond to that?
Oh, Bill, I have to say I think both David Littleproud and Susan Lee have said similar things to each other as they have about each other. In other words, they've been the discussions were very cordial between them, and I've heard neither say a bad word about the other. I think that part of the personal engagement is absolutely right. And I think a broader reflection about certainly how the Liberal Party sees the National Party, which is why Susan has been very open about wanting to keep engagement, an open door policy, if you like. And so I don't think there's any personal issue at all between Susan Lee and David Littleproud. Was
it a blindside? Did you see it coming?
Look, I was surprised about how quickly things suddenly unfolded, and before you know it, the National Party had announced that they're walking away from the coalition. That did surprise me, and it is with regret, by the way, because I'm a coalitionist, Bill. I really believe that Australia is best served when the Liberals and the Nationals are working together, and I'm a Queenslander. And in Queensland, we are one party, the Liberal National Party. And my hope is that over time, the National Party will come to the same conclusion as I've drawn, which is we're better together. And I'm hoping they will at some point change their mind and rejoin the coalition.
Are you disappointed, given what you just said then? That it happened, and it's also that it's happened at a time when then Susan Lee is still grieving the passing of her mum.
Look, I am disappointed. I really am. We have proven as the Liberal Party and National Party over many years that we can work together, and where there are any differences, we've been able to ensure that they are worked out. And I saw no reason why that couldn't be the case in this term of government. But at the same time, the National Party is their own party, and I respect the fact they've made a decision. Clearly, it's the preference of their party room to split. But on my own part and on the part of the Liberal Party, disappointed about that, no doubt.
And the door's open, as you said. But does some of the mud stick? Does some of the hurt stick? Does some trust get lost, given the way this has unfolded, as you've discussed just then?
Oh, look, I think there is a genuine desire for us to work together. I mean, there were two real issues that came up here through the discussions. It wasn't about policy, Bill, to be clear. It was about the process by which policy is formulated. And so the National Party wanted the Liberal Party to sign up to certain policies, and that would have breached Susan's compact to the Australian people that now that the election has been lost, we want to spend some time engaging with the Australian public. We wanted to listen, and each Liberal MP, each Liberal senator, each of whom have been duly elected, need to have their say on policy. And that's the standard thing to do, by the way. The National Party said, no, you need to sign up to these policies. And so none of the policies they put forward did the Liberal Party disagree with. It was just a matter of, well, we've got to go through a process, and we respect the fact you feel so deeply about them. The Liberal Party too has a lot of regional and rural members of Parliament. We get all that. But there's a process here. Let's see where the process takes us. And then the second issue was the National Party could not give a guarantee of shadow cabinet solidarity. And that's a concern. You can't operate as a cabinet if you thrash out an issue, you come to a resolution, and then people walk out of the room and go in different directions. And so that too was a sticking point, both of which I would have thought we could get through, but unfortunately the National Party did make their decision. That has to be respected, and we will continue to do everything we can to cooperate with them as we move forward, Bill.
Well, off the back of that, here's what Mr Littleproud also told Feegs about what he said the Libs weren't giving to the Nats.
So it was around the Regional Australia Future Fund, that $20 billion fund, that couldn't be guaranteed. It was around the universal service obligation, which is an obligation on Telstra to maintain mobile phone towers. It currently only extends to landlines and payphones. And so I've got people in regional Queensland whose lives are put at risk every day because they're next to a mobile phone tower that doesn't work.
So you were suggesting, David, you won't get the $20 billion, or they will not take this to the next election?
They couldn't guarantee that.
They couldn't guarantee
it. That would be policy. No one could guarantee that we would extend the universal service obligation to hold Telstra to account in maintaining the mobile phone towers that you, the Australian taxpayer, have built.
So your thoughts on that, Ted? It does seem like a gun to the Libs' head, like accept this, give us this, or we walk away.
Yeah, and look, the coalition agreement should never be held hostage to one party's position with the individual members of the other party absent from the decision-making process. Again, there was no pushback on the principle of any of these ideas that David put forward. But you don't do, that's not what coalition agreements are about. Coalition agreements are basically a recognition that we're going to anchor to our shared values, and that the makeup of the executive, so the ministry, would be between the Liberals and the Nats, and off you go. And it's, then business as usual working together in a coalition. So the notion that there would be certain policies that the leader as an individual of the Liberal Party would bypass engagement with stakeholders, the Australian public and her own party members, and just sign up to because it's in the interests of the National Party, that's not in the spirit of the coalition agreement. It would be completely unprecedented. And I think Susan demonstrated real strength of leadership in a very calm, consistent way, and reaffirmed that her commitment is to listen, to learn and engage with the Australian people as we rebuild the Liberal Party. And hopefully the National Party will come back and we can work as we have previously as a united coalition.
Will there be any thought given, any discussion given in the reforming and the review process to, well, okay, let's go it alone. Let's run some candidates in seats where we normally rely on the Nationals. And I'm talking about the Liberal Party not going back into the coalition. Is there any chance of that?
Oh, look, Bill, all of those things are ahead of us. And I do think there are second-order consequences here to a split in the coalition. And maybe the National Party had thought all of that through before making their decision to split or not. I don't know. I can't speak on their part. However, as a Queenslander, I see it being really business as usual when it comes to Queensland for the LNP. I mean, clearly at the state government level, but at the federal level too. I mean, we are a Liberal National Party in Queensland. So, yes, there's been a split in the coalition in Canberra between the two parties, but the LNP in Queensland remains strong. And I don't see any LNP MPs, for example, going in a competition being contested by, the alternate Liberal or National candidate.
I'm talking with Deputy Liberal Leader Ted O'Brien about the split with the coalition. More